It is time to say good afternoon to Raphaël Melançon, joining us in studio today. Of course, he's a political analyst here on CJAD and on CTV Montreal and a columnist for the Montreal Gazette. So we're just chatting during the break. There has been reaction today from Charles Milliard.
Absolutely.
To the
Blue
Book.
Exactly, on sovereignty.
You just came in and I'd had a dream. Mm-hmm. I'm going to play a little bit. I just played it, but you didn't hear it. I had a dream that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon came to me in my dream. Which is kind of crazy.
To convince you to vote yes?
Well, I want you to hear it without the whole dream thing, but here you go. This is what he says. This is in my dream, Raph.
Hello, Aaron. I'm sorry to bother you while you're asleep, but now seems like a good time to talk to you. In case you're wondering, it's Paul, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm here today to talk to you about the bright, glittering future of Quebec as laid out in our new Blue Book. Volume 1.
Okay, so that's part of what
you woke up in the morning as a convinced sovereignist,
I had a terrible night's sleep. Terrible night's sleep. So now, based on this Blue Book...
You got to have your pills checked if that's what you dream about.
Yeah, not a lot, but one time might be too many. There has been a reaction. This is interesting because I remember we spoke last week saying Charles Milliard actually said, we need a few days to take a look at this and then I'll speak about it.
It's a 500-page document, so they wanted to go through it before they reacted. So today he reacted to it for the first time during an interview on 98.5 FM in Montreal, the radio here, and he called it science fiction. Quote science fiction, because he says, and I quite agree with him, it's an idealized vision of what a sovereign Quebec could be, but there's lots of things in there that Quebec doesn't control by themselves, such as, let's say, keeping Canadian citizenship, having free trade with the rest of the country, being part of NATO and NORAD.
Yeah.
These are all things that need to be approved by, for instance, NATO members. So it's not a given that Quebec tomorrow morning, if we become a country, that Quebec will be allowed to become a member of NATO. So I agree with Charles Milliard that it's a very idealized, very optimistic vision of what a sovereign Quebec could be.
Did you use the word unrealistic? Because I only heard... Did you say?
He said science fiction.
Science fiction.
So to me,
fantasy.
it means it's a dream. It's a dream that will not happen because it's not true. It can't be true.
And is that what we expected to hear from Charles Milliard? What were you expecting?
Yeah, well, of course, I would not have expected Charles Milliard to say yes, he's right, and sovereign Quebec is something that would be preferable to the current situation. Of course, Charles Milliard is the leader of the most federalist party in the political landscape of the province. So it was to be expected, but I like the comparison to science fiction. And he said something else. He said that he wants to run the next campaign on the real things that people really need to hear about, their priorities, which is the cost of living, of course, and inflation and housing. And he wants to run on these topics rather than talk about sovereignty. And I feel like, you know what?
Isn't that what everyone's asking?
Well, and I think that's what Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon wants to as well, because if you look at the timing of his announcement of his unveiling of the Blue Book, to me, he unveiled it just on the eve of a national holiday. He didn't make a big show out of it. It was an online presentation to members of his party. Media were not allowed to attend it. So to me, he's kind of sweeping it under the rug to hopefully people will have time to forget about it when they head to the polls.
Why announce it at all?
Because he needs to satisfy his core base. There's still 75% of people who vote for the PQ want to have a referendum.
With all due respect about satisfying his base. The people are going to vote PQ, whether it is a blue book, a green book, or any other kind of book, right? So what in this possibly could there be that they would say no?
It's about motivating your troops just a few months ahead of the next election. You want them to be, their morale to be boosted just in time for the next election, because let's not forget, this is the fuel that keeps this party united and alive. So if they think that they are heading towards winning the next election so that they can have a third referendum on sovereignty, it's going to boost the morale of their troops on the ground, and it's going to motivate them to go knocking door to door all summer in the next few months to convince people to vote for their party.
Excusez-moi. Mais j'ai quelque chose pour bringing up here. So this idea is, I bring this up again, the idea is not new. The PQ and Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon have said all along, even when asked earlier on, you're still going to do this, is this the right time? You know, most Quebecers don't want it. It's never been in doubt. So this idea of whipping up the morale, je comprends pas.
It's about giving them an idea of what a sovereign Quebec could look like. It's a thorough exercise. You know, it's been a long time since we had such a detailed plan of what a sovereign and independent Quebec could be, and so I think it's about giving them the tools to dream about it, exactly as you did dream about Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon talking to you last night.
Yeah. Okay. Good. In that case, we don't have to worry about them winning the election. Since they did that right now, it gives them all the summer to make people forget about it, so that in the next election they focus on having a good government and tackling the issues that are the most pressing in the eyes of Quebec voters. I will point out, he said volume 1. There's at least another volume 2, 3, whatever coming. He didn't say when, but there's more.
Can't wait for it. Can't wait for it.
Did you? How much of this have you gone through? Of the 524 pages in volume 1.
Of course, I read it all this weekend. I spent the whole weekend. No, seriously, I didn't read through it all, but I did go through some.
Okay, so you mentioned NATO and NORAD. They want to join. That's kind of crazy. You mentioned their own currency, although he says it doesn't have to happen necessarily right away. Could be in 5, maybe even 10 years. He's talking about a Quebec army, free trade,
movement of people and merchandise with Canada. So basically, it's about keeping all the advantages of being part of the Federation without the disadvantages.
And what about all the money that Quebec would lose from transfer payments?
Oh, well, that's a magic wand, because, Quebec would be in full control of its economy, so we would be so rich as a sovereign nation.
We would miss the money.
So that's why I'm saying it's an idealized version of what a sovereign Quebec could be. But let's face it, let's just look. So in the UK right now, they're celebrating the 10 years of Brexit. There's a new study that shows that their economy shrunk by 8%. Their GDP shrunk by 8% over the past 10 years because they're no longer members of the European Union. I know he doesn't want to have the comparison between Brexit and Quebec, but to me, the similarities are the same. That there should be, of course, at least 10 years of uncertainty and instability in this province, in this country, if ever we're going towards Quebec becoming a country. But that's far from happening. First of all, the PQ needs to win the next election. They need to have a strong majority. If you look at the polls right now, we're heading towards a three-way race. The PQ's majority, not sure anymore, could be a minority if ever they are in power. And after that, they need to launch a referendum and win that referendum. And so far, 2/3 of Quebecers do not want to vote yes in this referendum. So it's far from being a given that this is ever going to happen anytime soon.
You know how crazy that sounds, right? When we say that, and those are the facts, right? The PQ right now, first it was a majority, now it's not. They'd form a minority government, right, if a vote was held today. But then to say, they're going to win a minority government, but nobody wants separation, nobody wants a referendum, but the party who's pledging they will do both is currently in the lead as far as forming a government.
In the lead,
something in there just doesn't make sense at all.
It doesn't make sense at all. I agree with you, but it was only because of the circumstances. They were facing a weakened Liberal Party after the Brownie Gate with Pablo Rodriguez, and they were facing a weakened CAQ under François Legault. Not that Christine Fréchette, there's a Fréchette effect that is obvious in the polls since Christine Fréchette became leader of the CQ. The whole landscape is changing, and I will tell you, I wouldn't be too surprised if the CQ were ever to win a minority government in the next election.
What?
Because the more Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon will have to talk about sovereignty and a referendum for 45 days during the next campaign, the more people will be looking for an alternative. And that alternative so far cannot be the Liberals, because they're still around 15% among Francophones. You don't form a government, either minority or majority government, with only 15%. You can't get out of the Greater Montreal area. So chances are, so far, that the alternative could be the CQ if ever the non-sovereignist vote were to go to the CQ.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy?
Think about this. A government
politics.
that's been in power for the last 8 years, the worst financial record of any provincial government in history, all the scandals, everything that's gone on. And they would form a government just because the guy who was the party is gone and there's a new face on the party.
Same thing happened just a year ago on the federal stage.
Yeah, I guess.
So, I mean, when it comes to politics, I'm never too surprised. I've been looking at the political stage for over 20 years now. Nothing surprises me anymore. Everything can be possible.
We didn't get a chance to talk about this last week, but I want to bring it up now. We found out, I guess, on Monday. There will not be an English language leaders debate as far as the provincial election is concerned. And if you do a little bit of checking, this is not the first time that's happened, right? It happened in 2018, but it didn't happen in 2014. Yeah. And I'm seeing people weighing in on this saying, you know what, there's a little over a million Anglophones in this province. And that is considered by many to be a snub by not having an English leaders debate. What do you think?
It's a snub for sure. It's a loss for our democracy, I would say, most of all, because when you have a significant portion of the population that doesn't have access to the relevant information they need to make sound decisions when they head to the polls this fall, it's a clear loss for our democracy, in my point of view. And it's unfortunate. Just about a week and a half ago, Christine Fréchette was here. She had an interview with our colleague Elias Makos, and she said she was here because she wanted to have a dialogue with the English-speaking community of Quebec. A new tone. Well, what better opportunity to have that kind of dialogue than a national debate where you can present and defend your ideas for the future of the province. It's not surprising coming from the PQ that they said no. It's not too surprising for the CQ because there's not much to gain for them to do that. There's more risks involved than there is to win in the end. But to me, the Liberals missed an opportunity because the Liberals, what they said is, since the CQ and the PQ are not coming,
we're in if
not
everyone
going.
else is in.
We would have gone had the PQ and the CQ said yes. So they're basically hiding behind their opponents' refusal to participate in that debate. And to me,
with all due respect, though, what kind of debate is it if the two leading parties aren't showing up for the debate? Why would the Liberals show up?
You have a free space to say whatever you want. They won't be there to defend themselves. And let's not forget, Québec Solidaire said yes. The Conservatives, Éric Duhaime, said yes. So there would have been 3 party leaders there. Just leave 2 empty chairs for the PQ and the CQ, just to remind Anglo voters that they don't care about you. But be there. The Liberals, because it's their core base, and they are the ones who have the most to gain at being part of that debate, they should have been the first ones to raise their hand and say, yes, we're going to be there. You can trust us.
So that was a mistake.
That was a major mistake, I would say, from the Liberal Party, because it's about fairness. There's 3 debates planned in French only. So on one side, you have the Francophones who will have access to 3 debates, and it's unfair to the Anglos not to have at least just 1 debate for them. So to me, the Liberals should have been there. They should have been the first ones, even before Québec Solidaire and the Conservatives. And it shows to me that, once again, they're taking the Anglo vote for granted.
Their answer should have been, of course we're in.
Of course. It's normal for us to be there. You can count on us.
Raph, we're out of time. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Aaron. Have a great summer.
Yeah, thanks.
So it's apparently our last regular segment of the season, but I'll be back during the summer. I'm not going anywhere, so if there's anything happening, I'll be there. Don't worry. I'll be there to analyze all of this.
I wasn't worried, but thank you for letting me know.
But I just wanted to make sure.
Have a great summer.
So you can sleep better tonight and not hear too many voices. Don't hear that dream of Paul St.
Pierre.
Close your eyes, and you can hear the entire world come alive. 2026 FIFA World Cup is on, and you can stream it all live on TSN Radio. From the opening kickoff to the final celebration, every match, every moment. Listen to FIFA World Cup on TSN Radio.
Here's Canada, the liftoff!
Available on iHeartRadio.